Hi, everybody. So here's our video on how to do a short answer response when we're writing argumentatively. All right. So the first short answer response is that you're going to do is on Amelia Earhart, and if you remember reading the article, it's it's titled "The Debate of the Lady Vanishes: Debate about Amelia Earhart Continues," and it's all about one specific person's theory about how she landed on Gardner Island, and then of course there are counterpoints, which we'll talk about a little bit. But yeah, so let's jump in. The first thing you need to do, of course, is look at your prompt. What are you being asked? So I'm asking you to argue whether Amelia Earhart was a castaway on Gardner Island. Of course, when you're doing like a full argumentative paper, you'll have more research than just one document, one text. But right now, we're just writing a short answer response, and we're really just practicing how to do that. So it's fine that you just have one. Well, the first thing is we need to do our thesis statement, which is the concession thesis reason. So let's look at our thesis statement. Okay, so thesis and integrating evidence. This is a handout that you have and that you are going to need a bunch. So make sure it's available to you, okay, that you have it ready. So the first thing you want to do when you're writing a thesis statement is give a concession. So a concession is like acknowledging that not everyone agrees with you. Or if you're like negotiating, it's giving someone a little bit of what they want to get some of what you want. So in argumentative writing, it's acknowledging that there are people who disagree with you while still writing your thesis, your idea. Okay, so let's look at this. You're going to recognize the opposing side's most important counterclaim. And then you're going to write your thesis, your claim, and then give an overview of your reasons. Okay, so an example with surveillance cameras in schools would be, although surveillance cameras may be expensive, so that's the counterclaim, they're expensive. Okay, true, they're expensive. This person is saying schools should still install them. So these two combine to make one sentence. Notice that the concession is a dependent clause. We talked about those independent and dependent. Dependent clauses cannot stand alone, and because of that, they need a subordinating conjunction. So your concession is going to usually start with a subordinating conjunction, right? And a dependent clause. Although surveillance cameras may be expensive, is not a sentence by itself. It needs the rest of this statement. Schools should install them. Okay. And then you continue with your reasons, and you use a coordinating conjunction, which you might have heard called fanboys. Use a coordinating conjunction to continue the sentence. So, although surveillance cameras may be expensive, schools should install them because they increase safety, reduce vandalism, and keep both teachers and students accountable for their actions. That's just this person's opinion, but it's their thesis statement. So let's go back to Amelia Earhart. If you believe that Amelia Earhart did land and then pass away on Gardner Island, you would still have to acknowledge the people who don't. And if you think she didn't, you have to acknowledge the people who do. All right, so let's just pretend like we think she did. So let's look back at our article and what is some of the arguments that she didn't. So I'm going to use a subheading that says, show us the proof. So this person just said there's no proof. It was a tweet, so it's not super reliable. But then a Navy combat veteran, Elgin Long, did say that he thinks that the plane that piece of the plane they found was a different plane, and that they're just being fanatic. So we can use some of this argument. We might say something like, although some people disagree, some people. And it seems like the main reason that people don't believe this is they feel like there's not evidence. So that's what we should say in our concession is, right, although some people think there is no evidence to support this, comma, so the concession ends in a comma, then you state your thesis, right? So maybe you think that that she did, Amelia Earhart. Am I misspelling your name? Are there two I's? Let me double check. This matters. So, nope, just one I. So I misspelled her name up here. Okay. You would say Amelia Earhart. We capitalize names and spell them correctly. Crash landed on Gardner Island. And then I'm going to use a fanboy. So let me go back. So I might say, so I'm going to use one of these. I might say and. I'm going to use and. And there is evidence to, evidence of her, I'm just going to make things up here because I want you to write your own reasons of her, let's see, Gucci handbag and her pet dinosaur on the island. Again, this is not true. These reasons are not true because I want you to write your own. No. Okay, there we go. All right. So, sorry, I know you couldn't see that for a second, but there it is. So, although some people think that there's no evidence to support this, so there's my concession, starting with a subordinating injunction. Amelia Earhart landed on Gardner Island. There's my statement. And then I start my reasons with fanboy or coordinating conjunction. And there's evidence of her Gucci handbag and her pet dinosaur on the island. Again, that's not true. Okay. Well, so now what I need to do is, and actually, you know what? For this first one, you should just pick one piece of evidence because we're just practicing. So just pick one. I'm going to go with the Gucci handbag. All right. I just realized, yeah. So just do the one. All right. So just the Gucci handbag. So now what we're going to do is the evidence paragraph. And let me show you how you do that. So the way it works with evidence, these are basically would be your body paragraphs when you're writing your essay, and for your short answer response, they're the second part of your SAR, your short answer response. So here you have the claim. Okay, you start like this. Claim, which is what you're saying, and you introduce that with a claim phrase, which I'll tell you about, and you give your reason. And then next comes your evidence, and you introduce that with an evidence phrase, and you give your evidence, and then you give your reasoning, and you use an introducing reasoning phrase. Okay. So you're gonna you'll follow this format. Okay. So when we're looking at the surveillance example, we might say, so pull something from the graphic organizer. So here are the phrases to introduce a claim. If you only have one claim, you can use one of these phrases. If you have more than one claim, then you can use this to introduce your first claim. You can use one of these phrases to introduce your second claim, and you can use one of these phrases to introduce further claims or your last claim. Okay, so we only have one claim right now, right? We're just doing the one. So we might say a reason, one reason, or the reason. In this case, in the example of surveillance, they had more examples. So they used the phrase, one reason surveillance cameras should be installed in schools is vandalism, right? And notice they mentioned vandalism in their topic sentence in their thesis statement, which was one of the reasons. Okay, so they say vandalism. Now they give introducing evidence. So let's go look for an introducing evidence phrase. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, so to introduce evidence, these are all your phrases, the way you can start. And in bold are the how you are like the descriptor of how you do it, and then in highlighting or in italics are an example. Okay, so you can have someone list someone by their job title and who they are and say according to them. You could reference research. You could say according to blank research. You could start with the job title and name and then say believes, argues, whatever. You could say reference someone's book and put the book title plus their job title. And then you can also name a study. So I think I went with a person with a job title for the surveillance. So FBI agent Tina Sinclair argues, right? I pulled that right out of the graphic organizer. Okay. Believes, argues, I pulled this one. That up to 10% of some schools' budgets are used to repair damage and vandalism. And then I said what page it was on. Now I need an introducing reasoning phrase. I'm going to go back up, and these are all my phrases to introduce reasoning. And I think I said it stands to reason that having cameras on campus would allow school staff to see vandalism attempts before they start. Okay, so that's just one example. Now we need to do it for ours, okay, for your Amelia Earhart example. So the first thing is if you've said that she did crash land on that island, you're going to introduce that claim. So let's look for a phrase from introduce a claim. And you only have one claim. So you need to say a reason, one reason, or the reason. All right. So I'm going to say maybe one reason. And then you're going to say whatever you're going to say, right? It is clear. At this point, you can say Earhart, right? You don't have to keep saying her first name. Crash landed on Gardner Island is that there were pieces of her plane. Okay. Now I'm going to go and do evidence. I'm going to go back over and find a phrase to introduce evidence. And I know that there is a historian or this researcher who found this evidence. So I'm going to say his name here, right? I might do it here. So I'm going to do job title and what organization he's with, which I might have to look back in the article for, honestly. So let's see. What's this man's name? Rick Gillespie for the, oh my heavens. And I'm going to probably need to copy all of this and I'll cut some of it back. But I don't want to risk misspelling any of that. So I'm going to say, again, his name, and then I'm going to say what he believes or argues. So let me do that. So I'm going to go Rick Gillespie. I'm going to highlight this, get rid of my formatting, right? And instead of saying is the director of, I might just say, comma, the director of, comma. And then I'm going to say, I guess, believes that photos, his evidence was that there were photos showing her plane, right? Show her landing gear in the water, in the shallow water. Right, and now I got to do reasons. So let's go back and look. So to introduce reasoning, so this suggests, I'm going to say this suggests because it's far from proven. So I'm going to go back. So then here, this suggests that Earhart landed on the island. Boom. Now I just put it all together. So putting it all together goes copy and paste. This should be super duper familiar to you. Remember spacing counts. Okay, and then you go here. Okay. Here. And here. This suggests, oops. Okay, so this would be your short answer response. Okay, except for I used a real example, but that's okay. All right. Okay. I hope this helps. Bye.